Number 5. Bodie, California. Bodie is a former gold mining town and state historic park in California's Bodie Hills, near the Nevada border. Founded in 1876, this 19th century ghost town encompasses numerous original buildings, varying states of decay, plus artifacts and the Masonic cemetery. The Miners' Union Hall houses a museum with mining tools. Northeast is the Standard Gold Mill, with machinery and information about the process of gold extraction. In 1917, the Bodie Railway was abandoned, and its iron tracks were scrapped. The last mine closed in 1942 due to War Production Board Order L-208, shutting down all non-essential gold mines in the United States during World War II. Mining never resumed after the war. Bodie was first described as a ghost town in 1915. 100 years later, by 2015, the population reached zero and was completely abandoned. A rumor that a curse was brought upon Bodie, which folks state that if you plan to steal anything from Bodie, bad luck will follow you until the stolen item is returned to Bodie, California. Number 4. Hashima Island, Japan. From first glance, this looks like a battleship, thus giving Hashima Island the nickname Battleship Island. Hashima Island is an abandoned island off Nagasaki, lying about 15 kilometers or 9 miles from the center of the city. It is one of 505 uninhabited islands in Nagasaki Prefecture. The island's most notable features are its abandoned concrete buildings, undisturbed except by nature, and the surrounding sea wall. While the island is a symbol of the rapid industrialization of Japan, it is also a reminder of Japanese war crimes as a site of forced labor prior to and during World War II. Once a property of Mitsubishi, the island was a site of iron and steel, shipbuilding, and coal mining. In 1974, due to the coal reserves being depleted, the undersea coal mine was shut down and all residents of the island departed. Now sits as a tourist spot and is protected as a site of industrial heritage of the Japanese. Number 3. Varosha, Cyprus. In the early 1970s, Famagusta was the number one tourist destination in Cyprus. To cater to the increasing number of tourists, many new high-rise buildings and hotels were constructed. During its heyday, Varosha was not only the number one tourist destination in Cyprus, but between 1970 and 1974, it was one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world, and was a favorite destination of celebrities such as Elizabeth Taylor and Bridget Bardot. The abandoned southern quarter of the Cypriot city of Famagusta Varosha was the modern tourist area of the city. Its inhabitants fled during the Turkish invasion of Cyprus in 1974, when the city of Famagusta came under Turkish control and has remained abandoned ever since. As of 2019, the quarter continues to be uninhabited. Buildings have decayed, and in some cases their contents have been looted over the years. Some streets have been overgrown with vegetation, and the quarter is generally described as a ghost town. Entry is forbidden to the public. In 2017, the beach of Varosha was open but to exclusively be used by the Turks, either Turkish Cypriots or Turkish nationals. Number 2. Fordlandia, Brazil. Remember that time that Walt Disney built that one park in California? Henry Ford thought the same thing, but not for family fun, but for rubber production. This place being in the jungles of Brazil near the Tapajós River, the trees used to make rubber, Hevea brasiliensis, fell victim to leaf fungus. Clashes between the Brazilian laborers and American managers soon became a common occurrence. During one riot over cafeteria rules, Fordlandia's employees destroyed most of their mess hall with machetes and pushed the town's truck into the river. Henry Ford eventually sank $20 million into this would-be workers' paradise, but the town failed to produce any latex for his automobiles. Having never visited the city himself, he finally sold it to the Brazilian government in 1945 for pennies and $1. The wilderness has reclaimed large portions of Fordlandia's campus in the years since, but many of its buildings are still standing, and the town has become a minor tourist destination for backpackers and curiosity seekers. The first trouble with Fordlandia was a social issue. The settlement were plagued by waste and violence and vice. There were knife fights, there were riots over food, and attempts to impose Ford-style regulations. Extra. Oradour-sur-Glane, France. The new established Oradour-sur-Glane remains populated with about 2,500 people, but the original village of Oradour-sur-Glane is what I'm going over. The original village was destroyed on June 10, 1944, when 642 of its inhabitants, including women and children, were massacred by a company of troops belonging to the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, a Waffen-SS unit of the military forces of Nazi Germany. A new village was built after the war on a nearby site, but on the orders of the then French President Charles de Gaulle, the original has been maintained as a permanent memorial.
50,000 people used to live here.
Number 1.
Now it's a ghost town.
Pripyat, Ukraine. Access to Pripyat, unlike cities of military importance, was not restricted before the disaster, as the Soviet Union deemed nuclear power stations safer than other types of power plants. Nuclear power stations were presented as achievements of Soviet engineering, harnessing nuclear power for peace projects. The slogan, "Peaceful Atom," was popular during these times. The original plan had been to build the plant only 25 kilometers or 16 miles from Kiev, but the Ukrainian Academy of Science, among other bodies, expressed concern that it would be too close to the city. As a result, the power station of Pripyat were built at their current locations about 100 kilometers or 62 miles from Kiev. After the disaster, the city of Pripyat was evacuated in 2 days. After the disaster of the Chernobyl nuclear plant, psychological effects of Chernobyl remained widespread and profound, resulting in suicides, alcohol abuse, and apathy. Most emergency workers and people living in contaminated areas received relatively low whole body radiation doses, according to a United Nations study published in 2008. As of 2010, both Chernobyl and Pripyat are deemed safe, but before and after tours, you will be screened in case of any nuclear particles are attached to you.